All right, ladies, welcome to the UCAN Title IX celebration. We are celebrating 50 years of Title IX, and I couldn't think of a better way than to do it with you four. So thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Yeah, well, I'm going to just walk through each and every one of your resumes, bios, whatever you want to say, because I think this is really important for us to share with everyone the different stages we all are in our lives, but also how Title IX has affected us. So I'm going to start with you, Linda. If you can just wave, Linda. This is Linda Quirk, and she is 69 years old and an ultramarathon. And it doesn't stop there, Linda, does it? You've done so many amazing things. Let's just start with the most recent. In 2019, you completed the World Marathon Challenge, which is 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. I mean, that's amazing. Okay, it doesn't stop there. She celebrated her 66th birthday when you crossed the finish line that day. It is on the second to last race, excuse me. So you had one more race after you turned 66, but that's how you finished your second to last race. Pretty amazing. Then in 2013, let me back it up a little bit. You completed in 2 135-mile ultramarathons and enhanced the Badwater age group record, which stood for 16 years. Amazing.
Correct.
We're not done there. In 2010, you became the first American woman and the oldest person in the world to compete in the planet's 4 desert Grand Slams. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I'm going to move on. We're going to get to you, Linda, but I'm going to move on to Dede. So Dede Griesbauer. Dede, you wave your hand, please. Okay. So you are 51 years old and you're a pro triathlete.
Yes.
Amazing. You have competed in 3 Ironman and more than 3, but you are a 3-time Ironman champion.
Yes. I've won 3 of them. Yes.
I get all these things mixed up because you guys are amazing. The list goes on and on and on and on. Okay, so you've won 3 of them. In 2020, you were the Ultraman world record holder, which you and I have done a podcast on, and it is amazing. It is so cool what you've done. And you won the race outright, setting the world record there.
I did. I got beat by 1 man, but I beat all the women and I set a world record. Yes. But I didn't win it outright. I got beat by 1 dude.
Okay. 1 dude. I mean,
1 dude.
seriously. Yeah. Pretty amazing. In 2016, you were the 12-hour time trial world champion, where you set the course record of 258 miles, beating all the men there.
I beat all the men at that one. Yeah.
Okay. You're currently the oldest professional triathlete still competing.
Correct. Yep. There's
Awesome.
there's one guy who just turned 50. He's from New Zealand. And so he just turned 50 yesterday. And I messaged him and I said, welcome to the over 50 professional triathletes club. We're having t-shirts made. There's 2 of us over 50.
That's awesome. And people can listen to you because you do some commentary as well.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. All right. This is amazing. So next, I'm going down in age, but she's 48 years old. She's a nationally ranked masters track athlete. Wave your hand here. This is a Maurelhena Wallace. Maurelhena, you've done some awesome things. You were on the 4x4 meter relay age group world record team. You have won national titles, American age group records, not only in the 4x4, but in the 4x1 and the 4x2. You've dedicated most of your professional life to creating healthier lives for underserved communities through physical activities. I mean, it's amazing. The list goes on and on. You still stay super fit, but you're using that platform to enrich and enhance the lives of all of us in sport and to diversify it as well. So it's pretty cool. The last one, Jane, wave your hands. This is Jane Vongvorachoti. I think I got it right. You say
Vongvorachoti. Yeah.
Vongvorachoti. Okay, you know me and my Norwegian Minnesota accent. It doesn't come out very well. You were a 2016 Olympian for Thailand in the marathon, in an event and in a sport that you didn't start in. You started in soccer, and you found your way to running in 2010. Pretty amazing stuff. You were also the 2014 New York Runners Runner of the Year for your age group. And in 2015, you were the 10,000 meter bronze medalist in the Southeast Asian Games. Awesome. I just love it. I love what you all are doing, not only for us ladies, but for all of our sports. And I'm going to just open it up right now. I'm going to start with you, Linda. Tell us a little bit about that resume and what got you into the sport and how you keep on going and just crushing it at your young age of 69.
Yeah, I know. I'm heading towards that big 7-0. It's
Yay!
happening soon. I'm just one of those that, as you said, Title IX came in a year after I graduated from high school. So there were no opportunities for scholarships, for anything for us. And so, what happened, I mean, I was always active, but not in the sense where it was in an organized setting for sport. I would participate in swimming. I went and walked and paid my own way to take swimming lessons, ultimately becoming a lifeguard, but we couldn't become a lifeguard at a beach. We could only be at a pool. So, the restrictions were definitely there. But, I just I didn't really even run until I was asked to enter my first marathon at 35. And I had no clue, never ran a 5K, never nothing. I just went straight to the marathon, just really didn't know what I was doing. So I just kind of came up through the ranks of just, if the dare was there and I felt that I wanted to do it, I just kind of went for it and said, oh, okay, I'll figure it out. Let me just go try. So, for me, it was a little different. I mean, I feel really honored to be in here with all of you with these, the accolades that you have. Mine is just, can I do it was really my mantra. I'm gonna step up there. I don't know what I'm stepping, even with the 4 deserts. I had never run a trail race before in my life. And I thought, well, why not just go try it? And so that's kind of, Title IX opened up a lot of doors for women. And, Catherine Switzer for me was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing to see that happen. And again, that was 1972. So, this wasn't even heard of for us to be able to go and do it.
Well, I think that's what I love about your attitude. I can remember my mom is a little bit older than you, but not much. And she never had the opportunity. And for her to tell us 3 girls, so I grew up with 3 girls, we can do whatever we put our minds to. And the way she said it, I believed her. I really did. And I think that you all that maybe didn't have the opportunities that we have now, you guys were daring, you were wanting to set a new example, you wanted to raise your girls or teach other girls that they shouldn't believe that they can't or they're not allowed to do things. And I can even hear it just by, why not try it? Like, what do we have to lose? And I just think that attitude has just grown and grown and grown. And it's because of ladies from your generation, your era, that really has helped us ladies in the future.
Right. I mean, again, if you don't try, you won't know, right? So it's like, just go for it. And even women my age now, I continue to keep going because I'm hoping that they see they don't have to stop. A lot of them feel they have to stop. And it's like, well, there are limitations. We're not as fast or we're not as quick. And there's all these other things, but it doesn't mean you have to stop. So we'll see. I'm going to keep going till the body or something keeps me from doing it.
I love that. I love that. Dede, how about for you? Because, you're a little bit younger and, you were able to do things that were different than Linda was able to do. So talk about your journey into sport and what Title IX means to you.
Yeah, in so many ways, like just hearing Linda speak, it just makes me smile because I feel like she's a sister from another mother. But my experience was a little bit different in that by the time I came through school, girls and women's sports were established. I didn't have to start a swim team at my school. I didn't have to do some of the things that the women just a generation ahead of me had to do, the challenges that they faced, saying, okay, there is no opportunity. We have to create it for ourselves. By the time I came through, the opportunity was there. So I got to choose from any number of sports in school. It just so happens I wasn't very good at any of them. So my parents put me in a pool because water is soft and I was safe there. So some of the things that I've experienced through my career, and I'm fortunate now as a professional triathlete that in the sport of triathlon, we've had prize money equity from the beginning. So we have never had to fight for equal prize purses. But some of the things that we've had to fight for are equal representation. So having an equal number of slots at the Ironman World Championship. This year will be the first year that happens where there are equal slots for men and women. So it had long been that only 30 women were allowed to compete and 55 men. And they said that that was based on participation rates. And so while the opportunity was there and our prize money in triathlon has been equal, representation hasn't always been equal, and things like sponsorship haven't been equal. But very much like Linda, I still to this point am driven by curiosity. That's what got me into triathlon. Is it possible? I saw it on TV and I thought, can I do that? And again, reiterating, when I got to the end of my swimming career as a senior at Stanford University, there was no post-collegiate swimming at that time. It was just like you finish school and you're done. And I said to myself, why do I have to be done? I'm still improving. I'm still getting better. I don't want to be done. So I just kept swimming and I got a lot of funny looks like, you've graduated from college. What are you still doing here? And I was like, well, I still love it. I'm still swimming best times. And same thing in my triathlon career. I'm now 51 years old. And so many people have told me I should quit the sport and I'm never going to win the Ironman World Championship, but I'm still out there beating women half my age and going best times at the distance. And that's, to Linda's point, I want other professional triathletes and other women in general to realize that your athletic career isn't over when you turn 40 or 45 or 50. You can still be highly competitive at an age that most people would say that shouldn't be possible.
I love that. And I can see Maurelhena's up there giving you the snap. I mean, it's so true. Even you just said, is it possible? Why not, right? Why not be able to keep going and you correcting me that you didn't win outright, but you were second overall in these races. Like, I mean, that's impressive. It's incredible. It's all these words that, it just shows all of us, no matter what age we're at. We don't need anyone to tell us we can't do something or for how long. Maurelhena, you are doing some amazing things. You as a master's athlete have been awesome, but you are also kind of leading a charge to not only let's get these athletes that are females out there, but just to get this whole entire world moving and, experiencing what we experience as athletes, like the love and joy of pushing our bodies and seeing what we can do. So talk about Title IX, but also what you're doing in the world of sport as well.
Yeah, so, I love hearing about, being driven by curiosity, because it's one of the things I always think about, like, how much further can I push myself, at this young, wise age? How much more further can I go? Because there's still a lot left in me. And so my race is the 400 meters. Notice there's just 2 zeros. Y'all have like kilometers, and mine is just meters. And so, in the 400 meters, I was telling someone yesterday, I still have not mastered it. I still don't know how to run it. There's still so many different things that I need to know, about how to train, at this wiser age, how to be able to still be competitive at a national and international level. So many things. And so when I think about, Title IX, I think about access, right? And so I'm not only looking at it as a woman, but I'm also looking at it as a woman of color. And so one of the things is I knew early on that I was fast and I was strong, and my mom, kudos to her with my burst of energy that I would have, that she, just like you were saying before, continue to push me. For me, track was about access. I still remember at a really young age seeing Wilma Rudolph and knowing that she went to Tennessee State and knowing that she went to a historically Black college. I was like, I want to do that. And so following her story and then realizing like, okay, in order for me to go to college, in order for me to have access to opportunity, track was my outlet. And so being able to go to Alabama A&M University, being able to secure an academic as well as a partial track scholarship, it gave me access. There's a pure joy and a love for running with me. I do it not only for the accolades, but because it just drives me. Like after a good workout, I'm ready for whatever. And so we forget that like sports, there's this competitive side, but there's also like sports has given me discipline. Sports has given me opportunity, right? And, I have conversations with my mom too. And she's like, you're so fortunate, because when she was growing up, and like I said, it's not just about access for women, but it was access for women of color. And so it was a sorority of women back in her days, and it was unheard of. And if you were an athlete, you had to go above and beyond. It still amazes me as, in terms of access, in terms of equity, where we are. And so I started and I became the founder and CEO of Equity Design, where we focus on closing the gap that exists between health and wealth. And we use an equity lens to provide access to physical activity to underserved communities and underestimated populations. So, I feel like I'm just beginning, and I'm looking for the next one of us 2.0, and continuing to make sure that we have access and equitable access at that.
Yeah. I love that, because even before you had access, remember you would take the bus to the indoor tracks and all that. But before that, if I vaguely remember this, your mom would have you go do hill repeats.
Yep, you just take me outside and we'll do hill repeats. We'll run around the park. I didn't have access to a track. I couldn't afford, to be a part of, a track team. It was just something that I always wanted. And I wanted to make sure, my mom really made sure that access would not hinder my development. And that's why I say, kudos to her for that. Because for her, it's just like there's always a way to get it done. And so, even now, as I look at, whether I'm working in the Bronx or just throughout New York City's and under-resourced communities, someone sees like, oh, this is just for, a big square. And I'm like, no, we could do drills here. We could play games here. We can, really figuring it out. But again, it's about how to do more with less, so that it doesn't make or burst our bubble as it relates to our dream.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool. But your mom had a huge hand in your success and continues to push you. And I love that. Jane, I want to hear a little bit more about your story, because you're from Thailand and, you started in a different role. And I want to know how you got into sports, and also what this Title IX, amazing 50th anniversary means to you as well.
Oh, actually, so I was born here, but my parents were born in Thailand.
Okay.
So for me, it's kind of like growing up with parents who grew up in a different country.
Yep.
And them telling me about, they didn't have an opportunity to play soccer or play piano, whether it's because they didn't have the money. So they put me in everything. I was in ballet, gymnastics, and all these, they put me in everything. Just, when they came here, they thought, if I wasn't in any sport or any kind of activity, you get in trouble. So I kind of just tried every kind of sport, but I always followed what my brother did, which was soccer. And then I grew up going to local games, Long Island Rough Riders, and then watching the U.S. Actually, the first U.S. Women's national team play when I was younger. Like Michelle Akers-Salz, all those people that we all look up to nowadays. And so I actually tried to make, the U.S. national team, going through the whole process with soccer here, and had no idea about, things in Thailand, the national team there. I just probably thought they were very similar to the U.S. national team. And when I couldn't make the team here and I was given the opportunity to play soccer in Thailand, I was like, oh, I'm going to take this opportunity. And going over there, I spent almost my first season there. It was, during the summer. So it was like 3 months in Thailand. And it just blew my mind. I mean, what I got from, playing in college where they did your laundry, you got your meals and everything. I was waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to avoid the sun and then go to practice, come back, and we had the men's leftover jerseys actually, because they didn't think anything about the women's team. The women's team never made anything. Then we'd come back and wash dishes. Like you'd have your rotation, five athletes would wash literally outside in like tubs. Like after we ate all the food, we had to wash all the dishes, and then we had to help like do the laundry. So you actually did it by hand because it's easier. We only had 3 like practice jerseys, so it would dry after you hung it out outside. So that's kind of where I saw like how different and how privileged we were as a US citizen, but playing for Thailand because I had dual citizenship. So from there I kind of was like, you know what, I'm actually one of the top players in Thailand, but how come they're not like building up grassroots programs in Thailand for soccer? So I always still have that in my mind, and so I kept going back every year to kind of expose them to different things in terms of nutrition. Being an American, I think we're more likely to speak up. I think especially because of Title IX and everything, people, start to open up, especially women try to have a voice. And I think in Thailand, it's still a problem where if you're a woman, you're not supposed to speak up to like someone who's a male. So that you'll find that even jobs, they're still held by men, like the higher end jobs, or CEOs are by men. It's starting to change a little bit now. But so I would speak up. I said, well, why don't we have brand sponsorships? Like college teams have something supporting the schools, and that's how they started. Actually, we had no sponsors for the US national team for soccer the first 2 years I played, and then they got like Samsung to come in, McDonald's, and I mean, if you follow women's soccer, they've made the two women's World Cups since then. I never made any of the teams. They made it after I retired playing soccer and started my running career.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I came about, like in sport. But and then I saw the same thing in running. Once I retired in soccer, I started working as a personal trainer. Then someone asked me to run a half marathon. I knew that one day I would want to run the New York City Marathon. I ran it. I said, well, actually, if I ran this 2 times, I'd actually be like hitting almost like the US standard for or the world standard to make the Olympics. So I worked on that, and I never wanted to speak up in terms of if I wasn't good enough, I wouldn't like do something. So if it was like the national team, I wanted to run a world qualifying like top time before I submitted anything. So it wasn't until 2014, where I started to hit like sub 3-hour marathons. And then I contacted the Thailand national team. I said, I'd love to run, try to go for the Olympics. And still they didn't have much support. They said, who are you? You're like almost hitting your 30s, you're old. And I had to, prove myself. So I basically went out there in 2014, the end of 2014, I ran Chicago, and I qualified. I had a qualifying time, but it was outside the window for the 2016 Olympics. And I said, you know what? I became a phys ed teacher at the time, like trying to run these world times. And I said, I know I can qualify because I've hit that time before. So let me quit like teaching phys ed and let me really do this. And I want to go to Thailand, and where's the national team training there? They actually didn't really have a running camp for the long distance team. And so they started a running camp, and we had 3 of the oldest athletes actually compete in the first in the Southeast Asian Games. One was like 38, one was 37, and there was me who's 32 by the time I got to Olympics. But they had no belief in us. I mean, it was incredible, like how much I had to speak up for them. And again, they didn't have any sponsors. They said, Jane, why don't you go talk to the secretary, of the Thai athletic board? And I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to really talk to them, but now they have, some of them are retired now, and they're coaching. and they're doing things that are amazing that I think if I wouldn't have spoken up or, pushed the boundaries there, that they wouldn't have those opportunities. So I think for me, it's about changing how people see sport in Thailand with the experience I've had, in the US. So yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, changing like maybe your own team is awesome in itself, but then you're helping to change a whole entire country.
Yeah.
When you lay down at night and put your head down at night, I'm assuming you got to feel a little bit like I'm doing something, I'm helping someone there.
Yeah. So I mean, it's amazing, and they're still doing a lot of things. They're coaching now. We had a Kenyan coach which they hired in. I said, you need to hire coaches that are outside of Thailand. You need to give them opportunities to run in international races. And so the other girl because I'm one of two athletes, so she was my training partner. She had no belief. She was 36, and she's like, I'm done. I said, no, like we trained together. I know you can make the 2016 Olympics, and sure enough, she did, but she only made it because if you run in Thailand, it's like 80 degrees. Ask them to qualify for the, Olympics in 80 degrees is like nearly impossible for almost anybody. I had the contact of running the Houston half marathon and marathon many years here. So even the secretary in Thailand couldn't get them a spot. And I just happened to know somebody from the Houston Marathon. And I said, please, I was like, they don't have a qualifying time. Like, please, like send them over. And so actually both athletes, so my teammate and the men athlete that I Bunting also ended up with a wild card to go to the Olympics. So we're the first like 3 marathoners to go to the Olympics and the athletics. So that was really nice.
That is so cool. I love that. When you ladies think about that, just, trying to make a difference, trying to push the envelope and, continue on this march that all these ladies did before us to help us be able to grow in not only sport, but in life in general, right? Like, yeah, we're talking about Title IX, we're talking about sports, but it's bigger than that. When you think of that, Linda, what does it mean to you to try to change tomorrow, and make it better than yesterday?
Well, again, it's just about women believing that they're worth something and worth as much more and the same as men. I mean, Title IX actually kind of helped us to realize that we are capable just like anybody else. So for us to go forward and continue to do that shows young people, just like these ladies are doing. I mean, in other countries, even it's still prevalent and underserved young individuals to believe in themselves enough to say that I can, and they can if they choose to take the step forward and are guided by people like this to be able to do it. So, I mean, I think it's pretty, I don't know. I mean, for me, I think that's an amazing thing that they're doing. And I believe that what they're showing others is that they can go forward and do the same thing to help others to compete. So just, even me, 70-year-olds can still be out there. They're out there. There are very few, but they're there.
They are there, and they're so inspiring. You're so inspiring. Dede, as a commentator and as somebody that, knows all the stories and the ins and outs of both male and females that are competing, what is your favorite thing about being an athlete? Like, why do you continue to do it? And why at this age are you still going out there and, pushing yourself? And there are days where it's hard and there's days where you're tired and you want to do it. But what is it about sport that keeps bringing you back out day after day?
I mean, just so many things. I mean, at this point, it's certainly part of my identity. It's my lifestyle. I wouldn't know how to live my life any other way, but even as a professional, I'm still finding ways to get better. There's always something that you can improve. You can always wake up and be better today than you were yesterday in some small way, because there's it's the little things now, right? I'm not going to suddenly develop, I don't know, skills that I don't have, but I can still be smart and figure out new ways to get better. So I love the opportunity that sport provides to make you better, and not just a better athlete, but a better person, in terms of how you apply yourself to your sport, what kind of teammate you are or role model you are to the next generation or to even the current generation. So it's just it's a tremendous opportunity to live a healthy life and a goal-filled life. I think life without goals it's really depressing. So I think having the opportunity to say, yes, I can do that, or can I do that, and reach for that is incredible. And I couldn't imagine life without it. I can't imagine life before women could do sport and we were told, no, you can't do, if you run a marathon, your uterus will fall out. Like, you can't do that, right? Like, those are the things that we fought against, right? And how ridiculous is that now? And I can't fathom life without having those opportunities.
Yeah. I think of that, when they say that when we were trying to run marathons, or like the Catherine Switzers and those people that were trying to run marathons back in the day, telling them they couldn't sweat, they couldn't wear the clothes, they were going to not be able to have kids, like all these crazy things. But yet we were watching Wilma Rudolph win Olympic golds. What's the difference there? Like, why were we able to watch athletes do shorter events, but not the longer events?
I always feel like, I remember reading that story in Runner's World magazine, and also, reading about like how they strategically placed her, throughout the marathon, like her boyfriend was there, and, and to me, it was insane, right? I think the other part of it is, I always think about, when we think about inclusion, right, we sometimes forget, that women can and women are able to. And even to this day, I remember, in 2021, when I wrote the young woman's name down from Oregon, I believe her name was Seneca, Sedona Prince, and she's from University of Oregon, and a basketball player. And they showed during the NCAA tournament how, because of the pandemic, they had to restructure the tournament, and they showed the women's, their weight room were just like these dumbbells of like 5, 10, 15, and 20. And then she panned to the men's weight room. And, I gotta be kidding me. Like, this is 2021 and we're still doing this. And so for me, like, that's disheartening. Or even, so Jane, you were talking about, you were a PE teacher. So we work with PE teachers to create sports and activities that focus on inclusion, right? So that girls are not sitting out. And so we formed a different type of, the kids, sixth graders made up a tag game. And I said, okay, I'm gonna be it, so that this way you can focus on designing the game. And the boys came up to me and they're like, you're gonna be it, miss? Yeah, I'm gonna be it. I'm gonna be it. And so they were like, yeah, but I'm just saying, what you saying? Play the game. And so we started playing. He was out of breath afterwards. I was out of breath too, but he was out of breath. And he was like, oh my gosh, miss, I just thought because what? So, even now, to be able to, I constantly feel, right, especially with women PE teachers, or those that identify as women, that it's just constantly proving to boys, right, that we can. I remember the Michael Jordan commercial, with the soccer player, Mia Hamm, anything you can do, I can do better. I love that commercial, but I'm like, why? Why do we have to tell the world we can do it better? That, again, even thinking about Title IX, the origin and the basis of Title IX really had nothing to do with athletics and everything to do with inclusion, because it just wasn't happening. So again, to like fast forward, whether it's the sixth grader, or to be able to see the NCAA set up the women's basketball in 2021 and not give them access to the same, come on.
I know. Come on is right. And yeah, we do talk about Title IX in that sense of sport, because that's what we are. We're all athletes, but it was bigger than that. It was more than just sport. it was about inclusion and trying to just elevate what we do as females as well. Jane, you are training people currently today, right?
Yeah, well, I just had my son 2 years ago, so he's two now. But so I was actually living in London. My whole story is like people get very confused when I was living in London. I'm born in the US, I'm Thai American, I lived in London, I was there for 6 years, and then I just moved back. But while I was there, it's also, I was a head coach for New Balance Run Club there. And then during the lockdown, I did basically online and kept the group running and invited more. Basically, it didn't even have to be runners to do things online and just to be, like talking about other things besides sport, but just keeping people together. So, finding myself living in London and the situation with the COVID, and just people need a community of people to help each other, support each other in anything in any way possible. So we were talking about cooking classes, we were talking about like crocheting and finding about all these things that you would never find out about your athletes that I was coaching previously. And we came out of lockdown. My goal was, I had played at a professional level, but after coaching, I found, and at an older age, I found myself like, well, I need a community as well. And I found that, if I just had some social activities after, sport, that more runners would come out. So yeah, I did that for free basically because they closed down the New Balance Run Club, and it's all about influence and influencers and all those things forming these other clubs, which is another story. But they didn't look at me and what I was forming as like really important. But I did find like we found some sponsors, and recently Eccleston Yards in London, I'm continuing to support them because it's a team that I've formed and I want to be worldwide. That there needs to be community teams that where everyone feels they're safe and they can be a part of, and like just the normal runners that come along that don't need to be judged, because a lot of the teams I found that were social were all about socializing, but then they're talking about taking pictures and you have to be pretty, and people just felt left out. I said, no, just come to a run club. It doesn't matter how slow you are. They said, well, what paces do you guys run at? I was like, we run at every pace. Nice. And so yeah, so I did that. I helped out with Run Talk Run, which is about mental health, and was part of their board. So there's a woman, Jessica, who formed a running community that's worldwide, and there's clubs that can be formed basically without being a coach. And so all it is just like forming a meeting spot and saying, hey, I'm, whoever wants to come out with me and just talk or run or walk. It's just about being out there for other people. So finding myself, I went through mental health issues as well, supporting different kind of communities and trying to form different kinds of support for all the things that need support out there. We need support for people with mental health, people who don't have any place to go to because they're not the best in the sport. So there's like a run community. And now I'm back in New York. So right now I'm coaching, soccer. So I'm back into soccer now, youth soccer a little bit. And I do want to get back into coaching at my high school because I went back to the high school and I found my high school team running. And I find that we need more opportunities after I went back to my schools, like people like you guys, like going out there and going back to your high school or back to college and speaking to your schools. And I think they need to see more of that. And I don't think there's as much opportunity, but some people may not see themselves as role models and leaders because we didn't win, gold medals or anything, but we are, trailblazers in our own ways. And I think we need more women out there as well coaching, and and same thing with soccer. There are barely any soccer coaches. There are youth soccer coaches, and one of the parents said, like, I haven't seen a female like soccer coach. And so it's really nice to see that. That's what I'm doing now.
I love that. Giving back, continuing to give back. Before I let you guys go, I want to know what's next. What's on the calendar? Are you competing, or do you have a big event coming up? So tell us all what's next, and also how you got involved with the UCAN community, because we all love the products. We all love what they stand for. We all love that Shobha leads the way for UCAN, and she is very much a big, rooter or cheerleader, whatever you want to say, for women in sport and in life. So Maybe Linda, start with you. What's next on your athletic calendar, and how did you get involved in the UCAN community?
Well, I actually started with UCAN way in the beginning, before they even had the packaging. It was when I decided to run the Four Deserts Grand Slam. I knew I needed nutrition advice, so I feeling not very secure in like who would actually take on, because at the time I was 57 years old, and I thought, oh gosh, and I went online to look up, sports nutritionists, and that's where I found Bob Seebahar. And I really was hesitant. I sent him an email, and then I called him like, would you consider taking on this old lady who really has no background at all in even running any of these? I mean, and he did. And I've been with Bob now for 12 years or so. So I mean, he's like my best friend, could be my kid, could be my son, but he's a great guy, but he's the one that introduced me to UCAN. So I used it continually. It was my source of nutrition during those desert races, which are 150 miles, where you carry everything on your back, and it's crazy. But you're not going there for a gourmet meal anyway. But it worked, and I was sold on UCAN from that point on, and I've been using them in everything that I do. And now with all the new products that they have, because back then it was just the chocolate and the vanilla shake. We didn't have the bars to go to, or now the gels that I'm now using. And so I have some goals, but with COVID, it threw everything that I was training for back. And with each year that goes by, I get a year older. So it makes it harder and harder for me. But I continued to train, and I have upcoming, I'm doing a Racing the Planet race, another 150 stage race in Lapland in August. I've got a 100-miler that race that I'm doing just to tick off another 100-mile race that I need to have.
Just to tick it off.
We'll just check that box.
Yeah.
What do you say, ladies? Like, Saturday good for you? We'll just tick off that 100 miles.
I love it.
That's how I feel right now. It's like I need to have, because I'm a veteran, considered a veteran of Badwater after doing it once. There, to my knowledge, and I think I'm correct on this, but there has never been a 70-year-old woman to ever try. So I turn 70 next year, but in order to apply, I have to, get another 100 under my belt, because it's been too long since I did one with all the COVID, everything. So I'm doing one in July, and then doing the Route 66 new 135-mile race in November. So I've got a lot of things stacking up, and hopefully they take my application and I'm able to, be accepted, back into Badwater to run it when I'm 70. So that's kind of the goal, as long as everything else stays correct with the body.
I love, isn't that the truth for all of us, right? The body just needs to hold up. I love it. Age is just a number, but the body goes through all kinds of things. Dede, what's next for you?
Yeah, I'm 0 for 2 in 22. I haven't had the best start to my year. My 2 races so far, I have yet to find a finish line, but plan to turn that around next month. I am racing Ironman Lake Placid, which will be my 4th time racing in Lake Placid. So looking forward to going back there. Having spent the first part of my professional career based out of Boston, it was sort of our home Ironman. So I always enjoy going back to Lake Placid. So that is my next race. I'm going to finish my year, hopefully, fingers crossed, because it's now been canceled for 2 years in a row, with the Ultraman World Championship. So when I raced Ultraman Florida in 2020 and set that world record, that was my qualifying standard to go to the Ultraman World Championship, which will be on the Big Island of Hawaii, starting the day after Thanksgiving, again, if the body holds up. So every day is just about looking after my body and making sure that I'm doing all the right things. And a big part of that is proper fueling. I was introduced to UCAN actually not during, after Ultraman, because there was very little I could do about what was happening to me during Ultraman in 2020, but I had gone in with this fueling strategy that I was just going to take all of these sugary sport drinks for 3 days straight. And when you throw that much sugar down the gullet, the body tends to fight back a little bit in some pretty undesirable ways. And one of my crew for Ultraman, literally in the middle of the double marathon, when I was stopping and crouching behind a bush again, was like, you really need to try UCAN.
Totally.
In my confused state, that was one thing I did take away from the double marathon at Ultraman, was that I had to call UCAN as soon as I got home. And I have been using it with great success. It is absolutely my foundation. Also, we'll continue to do commentary. Luckily, I have a little bit of a pause midsummer, so I can focus on Ironman Lake Placid, but then we'll have a lot of commentary opportunities later in the year, and love sharing my joy for the sport with others, and continue my coaching. I work with my coach, Julie Dibbins, to coach other mostly age group triathletes, and really just, again, feel fortunate to share my love and passion for sport and active, healthy lifestyle, and UCAN with others.
It's awesome. Oh my gosh. Tell us real quick again what the Ultraman consists of, because I think some people that are listening might not understand.
Yes. So Ultraman, I thought it was just a double Ironman. It is definitely more than a double Ironman. Have to work on my math skills, but so it's a 3-day, 320-mile race. Day one is a 10K swim and a 91-mile bike. Day two is a 171-mile bike, and then day three is a double marathon. So it's
nuts. It's nuts. That's what you want to say.
It's nuts. It crosses that line of an active, healthy lifestyle into a certifiably psychotic event. Yes.
But it sounds awesome when you love to do it.
When you love to do it, and it's such a unique event. And I think Linda will agree, when you do these ultra races, you're sharing that experience with a crew. And I think coming from, an athlete, I mean, unlike Jane, I didn't play team sports because I wasn't any good at them. I just wasn't coordinated with balls and sticks and things. So all of my sports have been individual, but to get to do this ultra event with a crew turns it into a team sport. And so that's been a great deal of fun, and makes it a super special event for an individual athlete, I think.
Very cool. Maurelhena, how did you get involved with UCAN, and what's next on your racing or, event schedule?
Well, first of all, kudos to y'all ladies again. My events consist of...
I couldn't run 400 meters very quickly. I'm just saying. I full respect to you, because if I was being chased by a bear, I could not run 400 meters in any faster than about a minute and a half.
So it literally takes me 2.5 hours to train for a race that's under 60 seconds. So I'm gonna drop those right there. Well, what I did was I'm looking forward to USA Track and Field Masters Nationals in Kentucky, which will be the end. Yes, it will be the end of July. I put my my indoor season on hold earlier this year to really focus on equity design. We did an initiative with teachers in the Bronx, where our goal was to be able to hit 10,000 miles together as a school. So all of the teachers, all of the staff. And so we exceeded that with 13,000 miles, which was equivalent to 26 million steps. And so just to be able to get the teachers excited so that they can get their students excited about being physically active, and again, low impact walking program. So that was like huge thing, really proud of, and really proud of the Bronx, East Tremont Bronx community for doing that. Again, when I was introduced to UCAN, it was a sample at the Armory that they were handing out. And at the time I was with Fit for Life NYC, and we were doing a teacher initiative. And one of the things that we found with the teachers is that they weren't properly hydrating during the day. They were literally just going from class to class to class. And so I reached out to Katie and I said, hey, I'm going to get 1,000 teachers moving. And so she sent me a ton of UCAN. And so, I introduce UCAN to teachers and all those who, even though they're not running hours or minutes in, but they have an active lifestyle. And then for me, it's really good, especially the sustained energy. And just like you, Dede, one of the things that I was just kind of done with all of the sugary drinks and how that made you feel, let you up just to bring you down. And so I've been with UCAN, ever since 2014. Matter of fact, had my broken 400-meter workout today. I use the UCAN gels and the UCAN hydration. And when I say that it works, it really works.
Awesome. So everybody better look out in Kentucky. Jane, how about you? What's next on the calendar? I mean, obviously we know you have this young baby, so you got your hands full, but what's next for you and how did you get connected to this community?
So for UCAN, they came again with the sample to my running club. So I ran for a Central Park Track Club back in I joined in 2010 when I started. And when I wanted to run for the Olympics, I said, I need some fuel, and I got some advice, and I tried all these, gels and everything, and you're sweet, and, they'd stick to my hand. And so then I just tried the UCAN, and from 2010, I just never went back. Like it was great in terms of, I think before, Morton came out and all these other competitors that are more liquid carbohydrates. It was great because I'd be able to fill up my bottle and not have to worry about the elite spots that they set on the marathon courses. So I introduced them to people in Thailand, like, where can you get this? I was like, well, you can order them from the US. But everyone's like, oh, she has that edge. That's why she's like running so fast. And I said, and they taste it and they love it too. And so every year I went back and I'd give it to some of my athletes there. Shared it with some of my high school athletes that, when I taught phys ed as well. This is something that you can have, and it's like not bad for you. It's not that sugary. You can make smoothies. I love how you can use it in so many different ways, like making pancakes. I love doing that as well. Making protein balls. So that's kind of how I started, and then using it in different ways so that it wouldn't be boring all the time, and putting them in recipes, as I said. So, with movement, just like Maurelhena was saying, like, I feel like sport has given so much to me that it's kind of like, not that I'm done with sport and like breaking records or anything, but trying to give back. So I saw through my son that there's, in living in London, there were actually a little bit more opportunities for children, like our tots, to move around in classes that were free, run by churches and everything. And when I moved back here, before I moved back, I said, what is there out there for children? And a lot of the classes, especially for tots, I'm not talking about like over 4 or 5 years old. There's tons of programs for those, but they are super expensive for a mommy and me class. And, I have a teaching certification, but not youth experience. And I decided to contact my local library, and I said, look, there needs to be like more movement in classes. Yes, there are reading classes for them, and there's like a little bit of music. And so I didn't even think she would accept me, but basically next month I'm going to be teaching tots like movement and fitness. So
Cool.
it's going to be a trial it's going to be a trial for 2 months, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm hoping to do that because I find, my son is so much better when he's outside playing, but winter is going to come in New York as well, but also in the summer, it's too hot for the children. And so offering like something like that. And if, this goes well, I can maybe do it at other libraries, and it's something that they will offer for free. And I think I'm going to start with that. And what I want to continue, because I have phys ed and coaching degree, I want to open up more opportunities that are free or low cost, like low, talking about $5, not $30 for a TOTS program or a kids program. I think this is what's preventing our children from being very active, or the parents, because it's $30 for a half-hour class. Like, who can afford that 5 days a week and keep them active? They actually need to be like social. They need to be seeing other children. So if we offer something that's $5, for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, they're going to be the next generation that moves more, and they're not going to have like as many heart problems or cardiovascular problems. So trying to open up these opportunities. And also it's not for those who are privileged that can go to these things. It's people, it's like I said, like opening up opportunities for everyone. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And maybe once I get some more time to myself, there is one like national record that I think I can still reach, and I think no one's going for. I won't mention it yet, but it is a athletics, so it's on the track event. So I will see if I can do that, because it's basically running my marathon pace, but for a shorter distance. So we'll see if I can break a national record for that. So that will be on the horizon.
Oh my goodness, all of you guys creating opportunities, leading by example. It's just amazing. We do have so much to celebrate. And even though we look back at times when we weren't celebrated, we are being celebrated now. And UCAN's doing that, and a lot of other people are doing it. And it's just so fun that we have this community here to be able to help the younger generation, both boys and girls and people of all kinds. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you for inspiring, and you can do great things, but don't. So thanks for being here today, you guys.
Hey, thanks
Thank
for having me.
Thank you.